The stars looked cold and distant from Outpost 47. Lieutenant James Reed stood at the main viewport, his eyes fixed on the endless black. 6 months on this remote station had taught him that space was mostly empty, but sometimes that emptiness hid things. "Lieutenant, you should see this." James turned to see Dr. Maria Torres hunched over her sensor station. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and her eyes never left the screen as she waved him over. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" James asked, leaning over her shoulder. "This energy pattern." Maria pointed to a faint line on her screen. It appeared for 8 seconds, then vanished. "It doesn't match any known signature, human or alien." James frowned. "Equipment malfunction. I ran 3 diagnostics. The sensors are working perfectly." Maria pulled up another screen. "This is the 4th time this month we've detected something similar. Always in the same sector, always brief, always gone before we can get a lock." James straightened up. "Send a report to Fleet Command. Mark it priority 2. "Already done." Maria looked up at him. "They'll say it's nothing again." "Probably." James walked back to the viewport. "But one day, they'll be wrong." 3 days later, the response from Fleet Command arrived. James read it aloud to Maria in the small mess hall. "Following review of sensor data from Outpost 47. Analysis indicates probable sensor echo caused by cosmic radiation. No further investigation warranted at this time." He set down the tablet. Signed, Admiral Walker. Maria stabbed her fork into the gray food cube on her plate. Walker wouldn't know a real anomaly if it bit him in the ass. "The Admiral has better things to do than chase ghosts," James said, though his tone lacked conviction. "These aren't ghosts." Maria pulled out her personal tablet and slid it across the table. "I mapped all the appearances. They're following a pattern, James." He studied the display. The anomalies formed a perfect arc through the sector, each appearing progressively closer to the New Haven colony. "You think whatever this is, it's heading toward New Haven?" James asked. "I don't know. But something big enough to leave these energy traces shouldn't be dismissed as cosmic radiation." James was about to respond when the station's alarm blared. "Alert. Anomaly detected in Sector 7G energy signature exceeds previous readings by factor of 10. They both rushed to the command center. The main screen showed a massive energy bloom where before there had been nothing but empty space. "Can you get visual?" James asked the station's eye. "Negative. No optical data available." "Switch to full spectrum analysis," Maria said, sliding into her seat. Her fingers flew across the controls. "I'm picking up mass readings now. Lieutenant, whatever this is, it's huge." The readings on the screen showed an object nearly 2 kilometers long. James felt a chill run down his spine. Nothing that big could hide so effectively. "Recording everything," Maria said. "They can't ignore this." For 3 minutes, the sensors tracked the massive object. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the readings flatlined. "Where did it go?" James demanded. Maria shook her head. "It's just gone. Like it was never there. Nothing that big just disappears. Unless it was designed to," Maria said quietly. Admiral Walker's face filled the view screen, his expression stern. "Lieutenant Reed, these continued reports are becoming problematic." "Sir, with respect, the evidence is mounting," James replied. "Dr. Torres has compiled." "I've seen Dr. Torres's data," Walker interrupted. "Our analysts say it's inconclusive at best." Maria stepped forward. "Admiral, the mass readings alone suggest a vessel larger than anything in our fleet. The energy signature doesn't match any known propulsion system." "Doctor, what you're describing is impossible with current technology," Walker said dismissively. "That's exactly my point, sir," Maria replied. "Whatever we're detecting shouldn't exist, at least not by our standards." Walker sighed. "Let me be clear. There are no unregistered ships of that size in human space. Our treaties with the Arkelian Collective require disclosure of any military vessels above destroyer class. If what you're seeing were real, it would trigger an interstellar incident. Unless it's using technology we don't understand, James suggested. Enough. Walker's face hardened. I'm ordering you to drop this line of investigation and focus on your actual duties. The transmission ended abruptly. James turned to Maria. He's scared. What? Walker. He's scared of what we might find. That night, James couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the anomaly. A ship that vanished like a ghost. He walked to the observatory dome, surprised to find Maria already there. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. She shook her head. I've been thinking about phase shift technology. The research was abandoned 20 years ago because it was too dangerous. Phase shifting an entire ship would require impossible amounts of energy, James said, unless they found a way to harness dark energy. Maria looked at him. It would explain why we only get glimpses. The ship exists partially in another dimension. James was about to respond when all the lights in the station went out. Emergency power kicked in seconds later. What just happened? Maria asked. The Station A's voice came through the speakers. Proximity alert. Unknown energy field detected surrounding the station. They rushed back to the command center. The main screen showed nothing but stars, but every sensor was screaming warnings. It's here, Maria whispered. Right on top of us. For a moment, reality seemed to bend. Through the viewport, James saw a glimpse of something massive and dark, covered in lights that seemed to bend in impossible ways. Then it was gone. The communication system chimed. An automated distress signal played through the speakers. This is New Haven Colony. We are under attack by unknown forces. The sky is changing. People are disappearing. Something is taking them. Please send help. The ship, it shouldn't exist. But it's here. The message cut off in static. James turned to Maria, his face grim. Prep the shuttle. We're going to New Haven. Walker ordered us to stay put, she reminded him. And people are disappearing. James checked his sidearm. Sometimes orders are wrong. As they prepared to leave, James looked back at the sensor readings one last time. Whatever had visited their station was now at the colony. A ghost ship that, according to everything they knew, couldn't possibly exist. But it was real, and it was taking people. The hunt for answers had begun. Tom's eyes were wide with fear. It came from nowhere. A ship, bigger than anything I've ever seen. But it wasn't. Fully here, like it was fading in and out. James helped the man to his feet. Did you see who took the colonists? Tom nodded. We call them the Gray. Not because of their color, because they're like shadows, half there. They move through walls. Nothing could stop them. They took Tom to the medical center to treat his dehydration. While Maria cared for him, James found a stasis pod that had been activated. You hid in this? He asked when he returned. Tom nodded. Standard procedure for biohazards. I hoped they couldn't detect me in stasis. I set it to wake me after 24 hours. Smart thinking, James said. Did you record anything? My body cam. Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. I was on patrol when it started. Maria connected the camera to a terminal. The footage showed Tom's patrol route through the colony. Then, a shadow fell over everything. Looking up, the camera caught a glimpse of something massive in the sky, a dark shape with strange angles that seemed to shift and change even as they watched. Then came the Gray. The footage showed humanoid shapes moving through the colony. They weren't solid. Their edges blurred, and light passed through them. They moved with purpose, touching colonists who then disappeared. They were selecting, Tom said, taking everyone. But why? Maria asked. What do they want? Tom shook his head. I don't know. But before I hid, I saw some of them in the research center. They seemed interested in our quantum communications array. James and Maria exchanged looks. New Haven had been testing experimental communications technology that could potentially work across vast distances instantly. "We need to see that research center," James said. The colony's research center stood at the edge of the settlement. Inside, they found clear signs of interest from the intruders. Equipment had been examined, data cores removed. "They were after our research," Tom confirmed. Maria studied the remaining equipment. "This quantum technology, it's similar to theoretical phase shifting. The same principle that might explain how their ship can appear and disappear." James's communicator beeped. An urgent message from Outpost 47. 3 more colonies had gone silent in the past 6 hours. All had been working on similar technology. "They're collecting something," James said. "Knowledge, technology, people, all related to quantum physics." "But why take everyone?" Tom asked. "Most colonists knew nothing about the research." "Insurance," Maria suggested. "Or maybe they can't tell the difference. Or maybe—" She didn't finish her thought. She didn't need to. The implication was clear. Maybe they took everyone because they wanted everyone. As they prepared to leave, Maria installed a special sensor package around the colony, one tuned to detect the unique energy signature of the ghost ship. "Next time it appears, we'll know," she said. They boarded the shuttle with Tom, knowing they needed to warn Earth. As they left atmosphere, all systems suddenly failed. "What's happening?" Maria shouted over the alarms. Through the viewport, a shadow passed over them. Massive, shifting, impossible. For a brief moment, they saw it clearly, a warship of incredible size, with a design that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. The shuttle systems came back online. On Maria's scanner, a new reading appeared, the ghost ship's energy signature, heading directly toward Earth. "It knows we're tracking it now," James said quietly, "and it's not happy about it." They set course for home, racing against a warship that shouldn't exist, but was very real and very dangerous. The military headquarters on Earth's moon was buzzing with activity when James, Maria, and Tom arrived. News of the vanished colonies had spread, creating a mix of fear and confusion among Earth's leadership. Admiral Walker met them in a secure conference room deep within the lunar base. His face showed no apology for dismissing their earlier warnings. 4 colonies gone, over 12,000 people missing, he said, pacing the room. "This better be good, Lieutenant." James shared everything they had discovered, while Maria presented their sensor data and Tom described his encounter with the Gray. When they finished, the room fell silent. "You expect me to believe a ghost ship that appears and disappears at will is abducting our colonies?" Walker's voice dripped with doubt. "The evidence is clear, sir," James insisted, "and it's heading toward Earth." Walker exchanged glances with a woman sitting quietly at the end of the table. She nodded slightly. "This is General Kate Adams, head of Earth Defense," Walker introduced her reluctantly. General Adams studied them for a moment. "What you've described matches something we've seen before." She pressed a button, and the room darkened. A holographic display appeared in the center of the table, showing technical blueprints for a massive ship unlike any James had seen before. "Project Phantom," she said, "designed 50 years ago as the ultimate stealth warship. It was meant to use experimental phase-shifting technology to move between dimensions, making it effectively invisible to conventional sensors." Maria leaned forward, studying the design. "This is exactly what we saw." "Impossible," General Adams replied. "Project Phantom was abandoned after multiple test failures caused devastating accidents. The technology was deemed too dangerous. All blueprints were destroyed." "Then how do you explain what we saw?" James asked. General Adams frowned. "I can't. That's why I need to show you something few people have ever seen." They followed General Adams to a secure archive deep beneath the lunar base. Inside, she pulled up classified records of Project Phantom. "The official story is that the project was abandoned," she explained. "The truth is more complicated. The files showed that after the public cancellation, a small team continued working on the project in secret. The lead scientist was Professor Alan Morgan, a brilliant physicist who believed the technology could revolutionize space travel. What happened to him? Maria asked. Official records say he died in a lab accident 10 years ago, General Adams replied. But there are inconsistencies in the reports. Maria spotted something in the data. These records have been altered. Look at the digital signatures. They don't match the timestamps. James studied the professor's profile. If Morgan is still alive, he might know what we're dealing with. General Adams nodded. Find him. I'll authorize whatever resources you need. It took Maria 3 days to trace Professor Morgan's trail. The path led to a small research station orbiting Jupiter, officially listed as an automated weather monitoring facility. When their ship docked, they found the station was anything but automated. Inside, an old man with wild white hair sat surrounded by complex equipment. He didn't seem surprised to see them. I wondered when someone would come, he said calmly. I've been tracking the Phantom's movements for months. You know about the ship? James asked. Professor Morgan smiled sadly. Of course I do. I built it. He led them to his lab, where screens displayed the same energy signatures Maria had detected. Project Phantom was my life's work, Morgan explained. The ability to shift partially between dimensions, to exist in 2 places at once. We were so close to success. What went wrong? Tom asked. Morgan's face darkened. Not what? Who? My research partner, Robert Bell. He believed the technology should be weaponized. I wanted to use it for exploration, scientific discovery. We disagreed. So what happened? Maria pressed. I discovered Bell had secretly built a working prototype without the safety measures I designed. When I confronted him, he used the ship to escape. I faked my death to continue tracking him without interference. James leaned forward. But that was 10 years ago. Where has the ship been all this time? The phase technology has. Side effects, Morgan said. Time moves differently when you're shifting between dimensions. What might be years for us could be days for Bell. He's been perfecting the technology, making the ship larger, more powerful. And now he's taking people, Maria said. Why? Morgan sighed heavily. Bell always believed humanity was on the wrong path, too focused on expansion, not enough on advancement. He talked about resetting civilization, starting over with only the brightest minds. A sudden alarm blared through the station. On Morgan's screens, a massive energy signature appeared near Mars. He's coming, Morgan whispered. And he's closer than I thought. James activated his communicator. This is Lieutenant Reed to Earth Defense. The Phantom ship has been detected near Mars. It's of human origin, controlled by a scientist named Robert Bell. General Adams's voice came through the speaker. Are you certain, Lieutenant? Yes, James replied. And we need to evacuate Earth immediately. Bell plans to reset humanity. Impossible, Adams replied. We can't evacuate an entire planet. Then we need to stop him, James said. Morgan looked up, his eyes suddenly clear and determined. There might be a way. I designed a countermeasure, a way to force the Phantom back into normal space where conventional weapons could damage it. Can you build it? Maria asked. Morgan shook his head. Not here, but the blueprint exists in a secure facility on Europa. If we can reach it. Another alarm sounded. The screen showed the Phantom ship changing course, heading straight for their small station. He knows I'm here, Morgan said, fear in his voice. He's coming for me. James made a quick decision. Prepare for emergency departure. We're going to Europa. As they rushed to their ship, Morgan grabbed Maria's arm. There's something else you should know. Bell isn't working alone. He has allies, powerful people who share his vision for a better humanity. Who? Maria asked. Before Morgan could answer, the station shook violently. Through the viewport, they caught a glimpse of the massive warship materializing nearby. Parts of it seemed to fade in and out of existence, making it hard to look at directly. "No time," James shouted. "We need to go now." They barely made it to their ship before the station began to break apart. As they pulled away, Maria looked back to see the phantom ship hovering where the station had been. For a brief moment, she thought she saw a face watching from one of its windows, a human face filled with cold determination. Their ship raced toward Europa, carrying the only people who knew the truth. The ghost ship that had been terrorizing human space wasn't alien at all. It was human technology, created by humans, controlled by humans, and now threatening all of humanity. The race to save Earth had begun. The ice of Europa gleamed like polished glass as their ship approached. Below the frozen surface lay an ocean, and hidden within it, humanity's most secret research facility. "Authorization code accepted," a computerized voice announced as they descended toward what looked like empty ice. "Welcome to Deep Station." The ice seemed to split open, revealing a hangar bay carved into the moon's surface. Their ship landed smoothly inside before the ice closed again above them. Director Emma Blake met them at the airlock. She was tall with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Professor Morgan," she said with a slight nod. "We thought you were dead." "That was the idea," Morgan replied. Director Blake turned to the others. "Lieutenant Reed, Dr. Torres, Mr. Wilson, welcome to humanity's most classified research division. Few know we exist." She led them through corridors built of metal and transparent aluminum, offering glimpses of the dark ocean beyond. Scientists worked at stations filled with technology James had never seen before. "For 50 years, we've developed countermeasures for every possible threat to Earth," Blake explained, "including threats of our own making." They entered a massive chamber where a strange ship hung suspended in a cradle of blue energy. It was smaller than Bell's Phantom ship, but clearly built on similar principles. Parts of it seemed to fade from view when looked at directly. "Project Echo," Blake said. "Our answer to the Phantom, should it ever return." Morgan approached the ship, his hand reaching out but stopping short of touching it. "You actually built it, using my revised designs." Blake nodded. "We've been working on it since Bell disappeared with the original. But we've never successfully tested it. The neural interface is too complex for normal pilots." "Neural interface?" James asked. "The phase technology requires split-second adjustments that human reflexes can't handle," Blake explained. "So we designed a direct brain-to-ship connection, but the mental strain is too much for most people." She touched a control panel, and a door opened on the far side of the chamber. A man stepped through, wearing a simple uniform with the Echo Project insignia. He had a strong resemblance to someone James had seen before. "This is Captain Thomas Gray," Blake introduced him. "Our only surviving test pilot with neural implants compatible with the ship." Maria looked closely at the captain. "You look familiar." Gray smiled without humor. "I should. You saw my twin brother watching you from the Phantom." The room fell silent. "Your brother is working with Bell?" James asked. Gray nodded. "Jack and I were both test pilots for the original project. The first implants were crude. They left Jack changed. When Bell stole the prototype, Jack went with him." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Morgan demanded. "Because I was ordered not to," Gray replied, glancing at Blake. "And because I hoped I could reach him, bring him back." Blake moved to a large display showing Earth and the approaching Phantom ship. "We're out of time for family reunions. The Phantom will reach Earth in less than 48 hours. Our sensors show it's carrying enough phase shift energy to tear apart our atmosphere." "Can Echo stop it?" James asked. "In theory," Morgan said, "but it would need to get close enough to deploy a phase lock, a field that forces both ships into normal space." "Which is suicide," Gray added. "Bell would detect us instantly and attack." Maria had been examining the ship's specifications on a nearby terminal. She looked up suddenly. "Not if we modify Echo's energy signature to mimic the Phantom's. I could reprogram the emitters to create a false reading." Morgan considered this. It might work. For a few minutes. Enough time to hit close. I'll pilot, Gray said firmly. Blake nodded. Begin preparations immediately. Dr. Torres, work with Professor Morgan on the modifications. I'm going to, James announced. Gray shook his head. This is a one-person mission, Lieutenant. Not anymore, James replied. You'll need someone to deploy the phase lock while you fly, and I've seen the Phantom up close. Blake looked between them, then nodded. Make it happen. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of activity. Maria and Morgan worked non-stop on the modifications while technicians prepared Echo for launch. Through it all, Earth Defense Forces scrambled to prepare for the worst. In a quiet moment before the mission, James found Tom standing at a viewport, staring at the distant blue dot that was Earth. I should be going with you, Tom said without turning. Someone needs to stay behind, James replied. To tell our story if we fail. Tom turned to face him. The people from my colony. Do you think they're still alive? I don't know, James answered honestly. But if they are, we're going to find them. 6 hours before the Phantom would reach Earth, Echo was ready. James stood with Gray in the pilot chamber, both wearing neural interface suits. Once we're linked to the ship, communication will be limited, Gray explained. We'll feel each other's intentions more than hear words. Maria approached James before he entered the ship. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. The modification should hold for about 10 minutes, she told him. After that, Bell will know you're there. 10 minutes is all we need, James said with more confidence than he felt. Maria hesitated, then quickly hugged him. Come back, Lieutenant. James smiled. That's an order I can follow, Doctor. Inside Echo, James and Gray took their positions. Technicians connected the neural interfaces to their spines. James felt a strange tingling as his mind linked to the ship. Neural sync complete, a voice announced. Phase systems online. Through the viewport, James saw Blake, Maria, Tom, and Morgan watching as the hangar doors opened above. Then Gray engaged the engines, and Echo shot upward, breaking through Europa's thin atmosphere into open space. Setting course for intercept, Gray said, his voice strained as he controlled the complex ship. James looked at the tactical display, showing the Phantom approaching Earth. In 30 minutes, they would intercept it. Remember, Gray said quietly, my brother and Bell believe they're saving humanity. They think they're the heroes. James checked the phase lock device by kidnapping innocent people and threatening to destroy Earth. I didn't say they were right, Gray replied, just that they believe it. Echo accelerated to full speed, its engines pulsing with strange blue-white energy. As they pushed closer to light speed, parts of the ship began to shift between dimensions. Through the viewport, space itself seemed to bend. Phase shift active, Gray announced. We're now partially out of normal space. James looked at his hands, which seemed solid one moment, and transparent the next. So this is what it feels like to be a ghost. Ahead, a massive shape began to take form against the blackness of space. The Phantom, finally visible as they entered the same dimensional state. Intercept in 5 minutes, Gray said. Bell hasn't detected us yet. James prepared the phase lock. Let's make this count. They approached the massive warship that shouldn't exist, but very much did. The fate of Earth hung in the balance as Echo closed the gap. 2 humans in a stolen technology against a madman with a plan to reshape humanity forever. Echo approached the massive Phantom ship silently, hidden in the same dimensional state. Up close, the Phantom was even more impressive and terrifying. Its hull stretched for kilometers, shifting and changing like something from a nightmare. 2 minutes until we're in range, Gray said, his voice strained from the mental effort of piloting Echo. James checked the phase lock device one final time. Once we deploy this, both ships will be forced into normal space for about 3 minutes. Earth's defense fleet will fire everything they have at the Phantom during that window. And at us, Gray added grimly. We'll be caught in the crossfire. If we survive the initial hit from the phase lock, James replied. The energy discharge could tear Echo apart. Gray smiled slightly. Always the optimist, Lieutenant. Through their neural link to Echo, James felt the ship's systems pulse with energy. The viewport showed the Phantom growing larger as they closed in. They were now close enough to see details of its construction. Technology far beyond what humanity was supposed to have. 30 seconds, Gray whispered. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout Echo. On the display, the Phantom's energy signature spiked dramatically. They've detected us, Gray shouted, yanking the controls to evade. Echo shuddered as energy beams from the Phantom sliced through the space they had just occupied. The larger ship turned with impossible speed, bringing more weapons to bear. Our camouflage failed, James said, checking the systems. Maria's modifications couldn't hold. New plan, Gray said, his eyes narrowed in concentration. I'll get us close enough for you to board the Phantom. Board it. James stared at him. That's suicide. The phase lock needs to be deployed from inside their engine room for maximum effect, Gray explained as he maneuvered Echo through another barrage of energy beams. I'll create a diversion. Before James could argue, Gray sent Echo into a steep dive, accelerating toward the Phantom's underside. The smaller ship's engines screamed with the strain as they narrowly avoided the larger ship's weapons. There, Gray pointed to a maintenance airlock on the Phantom's hull. I can get you close enough to jump across while we're both phased. Your suit will protect you for about 5 minutes in dimensional flux. James secured the phase lock device to his suit. What about you? I'll keep them busy, Gray replied. His face was pale with strain, but his eyes were determined. Find my brother if you can. Echo rocketed toward the Phantom's hull, dodging energy beams that tore through space around them. When they were just meters from the airlock, Gray nodded to James. Now, James hit the emergency hatch release. Space bent around him as he leaped from Echo toward the Phantom. For a terrifying moment, he floated in the void between ships, his body flickering between dimensions. Then his magnetic boots connected with the Phantom's hull. I'm in position, he reported through his comm. Good luck. Gray's voice came back, already fading as Echo pulled away. Make it count. James used an override code Morgan had given him to access the airlock. Inside, the Phantom was eerily quiet. The corridors stretched in impossible angles, sometimes seeming to loop back on themselves, a side effect of the phase technology. He consulted the schematic on his wrist display. The engine room was 20 levels down, at the core of the ship. As he moved through the corridors, he saw no crew, no signs of life. Where is everyone? He whispered to himself. The answer came as he passed a large chamber. Through a viewport, he saw rows of stasis pods, hundreds of them, each containing a person. In the center of the room, monitoring equipment showed vital signs. The colonists, James realized, they weren't dead. They were being kept in stasis. He wanted to stop and free them, but time was running out. Earth was minutes away from destruction. He continued toward the engine core. Outside, the battle raged. Through occasional viewports, James could see Echo dancing between the Phantom's energy beams, drawing fire away from Earth's defense fleet, which had moved into position but couldn't target the partially phased Phantom. Finally, James reached the engine room, a massive chamber dominated by a pulsing core of blue-white energy. The phase drive was unlike anything he had ever seen, twisting reality around it. As he moved to plant the phase lock device, a voice stopped him. I wouldn't do that if I were you. James turned to see a man who looked like an older version of Gray, but with cold, empty eyes. Beside him stood another man, tall, thin, with the calculating gaze of a scientist. Jack Gray, James said to the first man. And you must be Robert Bell. Bell smiled. You've come a long way to die, Lieutenant Reed. Why are you doing this? James demanded, stalling for time as he inched closer to the engine core. Because humanity is killing itself with mediocrity, Bell replied, expanding without evolving. I'm saving our best minds before the collapse, by kidnapping innocent people and threatening to destroy Earth. Those people are not innocent, Bell's voice hardened. They're complicit in a system that values consumption over advancement. The phase shift I'm about to trigger will reset Earth's atmosphere, make it uninhabitable for a century. When we return, we'll rebuild properly. You're insane, James said. Jack Gray stepped forward. Enough talk. Kill him. Bell raised a weapon, but before he could fire, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared throughout the Phantom. What's happening? Bell demanded, turning to a console. Your brother is happening, James said, recognizing the energy signature on Bell's display. He's ramming Echo into your primary stabilizers. Outside, Echo had driven itself directly into the Phantom's weakest point. The smaller ship's engines overloaded, creating a cascade of energy that tore through the Phantom's shields. In the moment of confusion, James lunged forward and attached the phase lock device to the engine core. He activated it immediately. No, Bell screamed, lunging for the device. A blinding flash of energy erupted from the core. James felt reality solidify around him as both ships were forced fully into normal space. The Phantom's systems screamed as they tried to compensate for the sudden shift. Jack Gray was thrown across the room by the energy pulse. Bell remained standing, his face contorted with rage. You've doomed us all, he shouted over the alarms. James checked his wrist display. The Earth Defense Fleet had opened fire, their weapons now able to hit the fully materialized Phantom. The ship shuddered with each impact. It's over, Bell, James said. Bell smiled suddenly, the expression chilling. Not yet. The drive is still active. When it overloads, it will tear a hole between dimensions large enough to swallow Earth's entire solar system. He turned to a terminal and began entering commands. James rushed forward to stop him, but Jack Gray recovered and blocked his path. Your brother is dead because of you, James told him. Something flickered in Jack's eyes. Doubt, perhaps even guilt. In that moment of hesitation, James pushed past him toward Bell. The scientist was seconds away from completing the sequence that would overload the drive. James tackled him away from the console, but the damage was done. The engine core began to pulse with increasing intensity. 2 minutes to catastrophic failure, an automated voice announced. Bell laughed. You can't stop it now. James looked at the engine core, then at his neural interface suit. An idea formed, desperate and likely suicidal, but possibly their only chance. He connected his suit's neural link directly to the Phantom's control systems. Pain shot through his body as the ship's vast systems flooded his mind. What are you doing? Bell demanded, suddenly alarmed. Creating a dimensional trap, James gasped through the pain. Around the engine core, containing the explosion. With the last of his strength, James redirected the phase energy inward, creating a bubble of distorted space-time around the engine room. The walls began to warp and bend as reality itself folded inward. Get to an escape pod, James told Jack. Tell them what happened here. Jack hesitated, then nodded once before running from the engine room. Bell tried to follow, but the doorway sealed as the dimensional trap strengthened. You'll die too, Bell said, his confidence finally breaking. James smiled through the pain. Maybe. Or maybe I'll just be somewhere else for a while. The engine core reached critical levels. As the explosion began, James completed the dimensional trap. The engine room, with James, Bell, and the overloading core, vanished from normal space, pulled into a pocket dimension created by the very technology Bell had hoped would destroy Earth. In normal space, the Phantom shuddered, then went dark. The colonists in stasis remained safe as Earth's fleet moved in to secure the ship. The Phantom warship that shouldn't exist had finally been seen by all, and stopped. 3 months later, Maria Torres stood alone in her lab on the lunar base. On her screen, a faint signal pulsed, a transmission unlike any other, originating from somewhere between dimensions. The message was simple. Still here. Found a way back. Wait for me. Maria smiled and began to prepare for the return of a man who had saved Earth in a battle that most people would never truly see or understand. The war against the impossible had been won. For now. The massive hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Commander Jack Thompson stepped forward. His blue uniform, adorned with the simple Earth insignia, looked plain next to the elaborate dress of the alien representatives. Behind him walked Engineer Anna Willis, her red hair tied back tightly, eyes darting around the chamber to take in the incredible architecture that stretched hundreds of meters above them. "The humans wish to address the council," announced the speaker, a tall being with silvery skin that rippled like water. Jack cleared his throat. This was humanity's first appearance before the full council since Earth had joined the galactic community 30 years ago. Most species waited centuries before requesting such an audience. "Honorable members of the council," Jack began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "We come to offer help with the Void Gate crisis." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some representatives leaned forward with interest, while others made gestures that Jack recognized as their species' equivalent of dismissive laughter. The speaker raised a hand for silence. "Commander Thompson, the collapse of the Void Gate system is indeed a tragedy. 23 civilizations remain cut off from the galactic community. But what could Earth possibly offer in this matter?" Anna stepped forward. Unlike Jack, who had trained for diplomatic missions his entire career, she felt uncomfortable in the spotlight. But when it came to engineering, her confidence was unshakable. "We've studied the fragments of the ancient builders' technology," she said. "We believe we can rebuild the Void Gate." This time, the chamber erupted. Representatives from 100 worlds spoke at once in dozens of languages. The translation devices in Jack's and Anna's ears struggled to keep up with the overlapping voices. Impossible. The humans are barely space-capable. Even the Mithrani couldn't restore it, and they've had spaceflight for 50,000 years. The speaker called for order, striking a crystal rod against a metal plate. The sound resonated through the hall, and gradually silence returned. Ambassador Dorn of the Stellar Imperium rose from his seat. His people, the Varl, were known for their advanced technology and their equally advanced sense of superiority. Dorn's skin had the blue-gray coloring of all Varl, but the elaborate patterns painted on his face marked him as a high-ranking official. "With all respect to our human friends," Dorn said, his voice smooth but carrying an edge, "this is absurd. Your species barely left your solar system a century ago. The Void Gate requires understanding physics your scientists haven't even theorized. The ancient builders had technology we still don't comprehend after studying it for millennia." Jack kept his face neutral despite the insult. "We're aware of the challenge." "Are you?" Dorn's mouth stretched into what passed for a smile among the Varl. "The last team that attempted repairs lost an entire moon when their calculations failed. A moon, Commander. 16 million dead. The Void Gate isn't some primitive fission reactor. It bends the fabric of space-time itself." Anna stepped forward again. "We've developed new approaches." "Based on what?" Dorn interrupted. "Your species still uses combustion for planetary transport. You haven't even mastered gravity manipulation for your cities. How could you possibly understand technology that predates your entire civilization by millions of years?" The council chamber grew tense. Jack noticed some representatives nodding in agreement with Dorn, while others watched with curious expressions. "Perhaps we should hear them out," suggested another representative, a small furry being from a world called Trell. "Humans have shown remarkable adaptability in the short time we've known them." Dorn made a dismissive gesture. "Adaptability won't rebuild the Void Gate. This requires the finest scientific minds in the galaxy, not enthusiastic amateurs." Jack felt his patience wearing thin. He hadn't expected an easy reception, but the outright dismissal stung. The Stellar Imperium has had 70 years to solve this problem, Jack said calmly. How much progress have you made, Ambassador? Dorn's face darkened to a deeper blue. We've made significant theoretical advances, but no practical ones, Jack finished for him. Meanwhile, 23 civilizations remain isolated, some facing resource shortages that will soon become critical. The speaker intervened. What exactly are you proposing, Commander Thompson? Anna pulled a small device from her pocket and activated it. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a modified design of the Void Gate. Our approach differs from previous attempts, she explained. Instead of trying to recreate the original technology exactly, we've developed a hybrid system that combines what we know of the ancient methods with new principles. She manipulated the display, showing different components and energy flows. Jack noticed that even Dorn was watching with reluctant interest. This isn't just human arrogance speaking, Anna continued. We've already successfully tested a small-scale version that created a stable microportal for 3 minutes and 42 seconds. This revelation caused another stir in the chamber. A microportal was still far from a full Void Gate, but it was more than anyone had achieved since the collapse. The speaker looked thoughtful. And you have documentation of this test. Full records, Jack confirmed, verified by independent observers from the Trell Science Academy. The representative from Trell nodded confirmation, causing Dorn's expression to sour further. Even if your test was successful, Dorn said, scaling up from a microportal to a full Void Gate is not simply a matter of building it larger. The energy requirements alone would drain your planet's resources. We've accounted for that, Anna replied. Our design uses significantly less energy than the original Void Gate. It's less powerful, but more stable. For the next hour, Anna answered increasingly technical questions from the council. Jack watched with pride as she handled each one with confidence. Her simple, direct explanations seemed to impress many of the representatives, even those initially skeptical. Finally, the speaker called for a brief recess to consider the human proposal. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, Dorn approached Jack and Anna. An interesting performance, he said quietly. But when your project fails, and it will fail, remember that you were warned. Some technologies are beyond certain species. Know your place in the galaxy, humans. Jack met his gaze steadily. Our place is wherever we decide to make it. Ambassador. Dorn's expression hardened. We shall see. When the council reconvened, the speaker announced their decision. The council grants provisional approval for the Human Void Gate project. You will receive limited access to the ancient builder's archives and permission to work at the collapsed gate site. However, the speaker added, the council accepts no responsibility for any consequences of your attempt. Jack bowed slightly. We understand. Thank you for your trust. Not trust, corrected the speaker. Necessity. If there is even a small chance you might succeed where others have failed, we must allow the attempt. As they left the chamber, Anna whispered to Jack, did we just commit to something impossible? Jack watched as Dorn and several other representatives huddled together, casting glances in their direction. Probably, he admitted. But if humans waited for guarantees of success, we'd never have left Earth in the first place. Anna nodded, her mind already racing with calculations and plans. I'll need to contact Earth immediately. We need to assemble the best team possible. Already arranged, Jack said. The ship leaves in 3 days. As they walked toward the exit, the enormity of their task settled over them. They had just committed humanity to the greatest engineering challenge in galactic history, with countless lives depending on their success. And most of the galaxy was betting on their failure. 3 months after their appearance before the Galactic Council, Anna Willis floated in the observation dome of Frontier Station, watching as another supply ship docked. The massive space station orbited the dead star where the original Void Gate had once stood. Now, Only broken pieces of the ancient structure remained, scattered across space like a giant puzzle. "Shipment from Earth," said a voice behind her. "More equipment for Lab 7. Anna turned to see Jack Thompson pushing himself through the zero-gravity environment with practiced ease. Unlike the early days, when he bumped into walls and equipment, he now moved like someone born in space. "Did they send the special alloys we asked for?" Anna asked. Jack nodded. "And something else. 20 new engineers and scientists, including Professor Tom Reed." Anna's eyes widened. "Tom Reed, the physicist. I thought he refused to join." "He changed his mind." Jack grinned. "Apparently, he said he couldn't miss the greatest engineering disaster or miracle of the century." "His words, not mine." Anna laughed. Tom Reed was famous on Earth for his wild theories about space and time. Most scientists thought his ideas were crazy, but Anna had studied his work secretly. His papers on dimensional folding had given her the first idea for their Voigtgate approach. "When does he arrive?" "He's on the ship now, along with our latest observer from the Stellar Imperium." Anna's smile faded. "Another spy from Dorn." "Of course. This one's called Velix, supposed to be a technical advisor. Just wants to watch us fail up close." The station had become home to over 300 humans and 50 aliens from various worlds. Some came to help, offering knowledge or skills. Others, like Dorn's people, came to watch and report back on the humans' progress, or lack of it. In Lab 3, Anna found Professor Reed already at work. He was older than she expected, with white hair that floated around his head in the low gravity. His clothes looked rumpled, as if he'd slept in them, which he probably had. "Engineer Willis," Reed called out when he saw her. "Finally, come look at this nonsense your team has created." Anna approached cautiously. Reed had a reputation for being brilliant but difficult. "Is there a problem, Professor?" "Problem? Yes, a dozen of them." Reed pointed at the complex diagrams on the screens around him. "Your approach to the quantum field generator is all wrong. You're trying to force stability using brute computational power." Anna felt her face grow warm. "We've made progress. Progress toward failure." Reed pulled up new diagrams. "The ancient builders didn't think like this. They didn't force technology to work. They found the natural flows of the universe and guided them. With respect, Professor, we don't have their knowledge." Reed snorted. "No, but we have our own knowledge." He pointed to his head. "Humans think differently. That's our advantage." As annoying as he was, Anna couldn't help but be fascinated. For the next hour, Reed explained his theories, drawing diagrams in the air with his hands and occasionally cursing when words failed him. "So you're saying we need to make the Voigtgate partially organic?" Anna asked finally. "Not organic exactly. Responsive. Alive in its own way." Reed's eyes gleamed. "The universe itself is alive, Engineer Willis. Our machines should be extensions of that life, not separate from it." From behind them came a smooth, almost musical voice. "Fascinating theory. Completely unsupported by evidence, of course." They turned to see Velix, the new observer from the Stellar Imperium. Like all Varl, he had blue-gray skin and tall, thin build. His face was painted with simpler patterns than Dorn's, marking his lower rank. "Evidence is what we're creating here," Reed replied sharply. Velix made a gesture that translated roughly as polite disbelief. "The Varl explored biologically responsive technology millennia ago. We found it unreliable and primitive. Then you explored it wrong," Reed said bluntly. Anna stepped between them. "Professor Reed's theories are just one approach we're exploring. We value the Stellar Imperium's input, of course." Velix nodded, not believing her for a second. "I look forward to observing your unique methods. Ambassador Dorn is most interested in your progress." After he glided away, Reed mumbled, "I bet he is." Over the next few weeks, the station hummed with activity. Anna split her team into different groups, each working on separate pieces of the massive project. To the surprise of their alien observers, the humans didn't just work in labs. Some teams included artists and musicians who helped to design components that felt right. As Reed put it, "What is the purpose of this?" asked Felix one day, watching as a sculptor shaped a piece of specialized metal. "Intuitive design," Anna explained. "Some relationships between matter and energy can be felt rather than calculated." Felix looked skeptical. "This is not science. It's human science," Jack said, joining them. "We've always mixed art and engineering. Our greatest scientists were often artists too." At the 1-month mark, they tested the first major component, a field stabilizer that would eventually help hold the void gate open. To everyone's surprise, including Anna's, it worked on the first try, generating a perfect containment field. Word spread quickly through the station. That night, the team celebrated in the common area, with music and drinks from a dozen worlds. "One small step," Jack said, raising his glass to Anna. "About 1,000 more to go," she replied, but she was smiling. Across the room, Tom Reed was arguing enthusiastically with a scientist from Trell, their furry arms waving as they debated some complex theory. Other aliens had joined the party too, curious about human celebration rituals. Only Felix and the other Varl observers kept their distance, watching with those unreadable eyes. 2 weeks later, disaster struck. The second major component, a quantum waveguide, failed catastrophically during testing. The explosion was small but destroyed months of work. "Impossible," Anna whispered, staring at the smoking ruins. The simulations were perfect. Reed examined the damaged pieces. This wasn't a design failure. The materials were compromised. Jack frowned. "Compromised how?" "The molecular structure is wrong." Reed held up a twisted piece of metal. "This isn't what we specified. It's similar, but not the same." Anna felt cold despite the lab's warm air. "Sabotage." Jack didn't answer, but his expression hardened. Later that night, he met Anna in her private quarters, where they could speak without being overheard. "Security footage shows Felix in the materials lab 3 days ago," Jack said quietly. "No record of why he was there." "You think the Varl are sabotaging us?" Anna asked. "I think someone doesn't want us to succeed." Jack's voice was grim. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Anna thought for a long moment. "We don't confront them. Not yet. Let them think they've set us back months. And meanwhile," a slow smile spread across Anna's face, "we change our approach. Professor Reed has been talking about a completely different way to build the field generator, something the Varl would never expect." Jack looked uncertain. "Reed's ideas are unusual." "Exactly." Anna's eyes shone with determination. "They're watching for conventional methods. Let's try something they'd never anticipate. Something so crazy it just might work." Jack asked with a small smile. "Something human," Anna replied. Outside the station, the broken remains of the ancient void gate continued their slow dance around the dead star. Soon, if Anna's team succeeded, those fragments would have new purpose, not rebuilt as they were, but transformed into something new, something that had never existed before. Something they said no one could build. Anna couldn't sleep. For the 5th night in a row, strange patterns danced in her mind whenever she closed her eyes. She finally gave up, pushed herself out of her small bed, and floated to the workstation in her quarters. "Lights," she called, and the room brightened. Anna pulled up the latest designs for the Void Gate project. After the sabotage 2 months ago, they had switched to Professor Reed's unconventional approach. Progress was slow but steady, yet something still felt wrong. Anna stared at the designs until her vision blurred. Then, just as she was about to give up, something clicked in her mind. The patterns from her dreams overlaid the schematics, and suddenly she saw it. "That's it," she whispered. Her fingers flew across the interface, making changes, connecting systems in ways no one had tried before. "That's what we've been missing." When morning came, or what passed for morning on a space station, Anna called an emergency meeting of the core team. Jack arrived first, looking concerned. "What's wrong? Another sabotage attempt?" "No, something better." Anna could barely contain her excitement. "I figured it out, Jack. The Void Gate isn't just technology, it's alive." Professor Reed arrived next, his white hair even more wild than usual. When Anna explained her revelation, his eyes widened. "Show me," he demanded. Anna displayed her new designs on the main screen. "See these connection points? They're not power conduits or data transfers. They're more like nerve endings. The ancient builders didn't build a machine. They grew one." Reed studied the designs, muttering to himself. After several minutes, he looked up with a grin that made him look decades younger. "Of course," he said. "It's so obvious now. We weren't thinking alien enough." "What does this mean for the project?" Jack asked. Anna took a deep breath. "It means we need to change everything. We've been trying to build a machine, but we need to grow a partner." The new approach stunned the alien observers. When Anna presented her theory to the full station, Velix immediately contacted Ambassador Dorn. Within days, Dorn himself arrived at the station. "This is madness," Dorn said when Anna finished explaining. "You're suggesting the Void Gate has consciousness." "Not human consciousness," Anna clarified. "Something different. More like how a plant knows to grow toward light." "Plants don't bend space and time," Dorn said coldly. Professor Reed stepped forward. "Maybe not on your world, Ambassador, but the universe is stranger than any of us know." Despite Dorn's objections, Anna's team began rebuilding their components using the new approach. They no longer forced the exotic materials into shapes they wanted. Instead, they created conditions where the materials could form themselves. The results were immediate and stunning. Components that had failed repeatedly now functioned perfectly. Structures that had been unstable held firm. Energy flowed more efficiently through systems that seemed to adjust themselves to changing conditions. Word spread quickly through the galaxy. More alien scientists began arriving at the station, not to observe, but to help. A group from the water world of Neri brought special materials that responded to thought. Engineers from the gas giant Halir shared techniques for communicating with non-biological entities. "This is not what we expected," said the Trell scientist, watching as a crystal formation grew itself into a perfect signal amplifier. "Humans continue to surprise us." Jack smiled. "We're good at that." In her private log, Anna recorded, Day 217. "The Void Gate components are showing signs of what I can only call preference. They work better when certain people handle them. They respond to music. Professor Reed insists on playing classical Earth compositions in Lab 5 and the crystalline structures that grow more quickly when Mozart is playing. I can't explain it scientifically, but I can't deny the results either." 3 weeks later, they were ready to test the first major section of the new Void Gate design. The test chamber was crowded with humans and aliens, all watching anxiously as Anna initiated the startup sequence. "Power at 10%, she called out. "Field stabilizers online." The air in the center of the chamber began to shimmer. A small disk of darkness appeared, no larger than a dinner plate. "It's working," Jack whispered. "Power at 25%, Anna continued. "Quantum guide engaging." The disk grew larger, now the size of a small window. Through it, they could see nothing. Perfect darkness, except for tiny points of light that might have been stars. Power at 50%. The portal expanded again. Now they could definitely see stars on the other side, but in a pattern no one recognized. "Where is that?" someone asked. "Not where," Professor Reed said quietly. "When? We're looking at stars as they were arranged millions of years ago." Anna checked her instruments. The portal is stable, holding at 50% power. For 10 minutes, the portal remained open. Instruments showed it was a genuine connection through space-time, not just an image. When Anna finally shut it down, The room erupted in cheers and the alien equivalent of applause. Even Dorn looked impressed, though he tried to hide it. A small portal under controlled conditions is still far from a functional void gate, he said. But it's more than anyone else has achieved since the collapse, Jack pointed out. Dorn had no answer to that. That night, as the station celebrated, Anna sat alone in the observation dome, staring at the broken pieces of the original void gate. Those ancient fragments were beginning to make sense to her now. Jack found her there. "You should be celebrating," he said, handing her a drink. "You're the hero of the hour." Anna took the drink but didn't sip it. "We're still so far from finished, Jack. A working portal is one thing. A stable void gate that can transport ships across the galaxy is something else entirely. But for the first time, it actually seems possible." Anna nodded slowly. "Yes, and that's what worries me." "What do you mean?" Ambassador Dorn wasn't angry today. He was scared. Anna turned to face Jack. "We're succeeding, Jack, and that's exactly what some people don't want." Jack's expression grew serious. "You think they'll try to stop us again?" "I know they will. And next time, they'll be desperate." As if to confirm her fears, an alert chimed on her communicator. Anna checked it and frowned. "What is it?" Jack asked. "Security alert. Someone accessed the main power controls without authorization." Anna stood up quickly. "It's starting already." They hurried from the observation dome, leaving behind the scattered remains of the ancient void gate, still orbiting the dead star. Those ancient fragments had once connected the galaxy. Soon, if Anna was right, they would do so again, but in a new way, a human way. If they could stay alive long enough to finish the job. The morning after their breakthrough, Anna and Jack called a station-wide security meeting. All section heads gathered in the main conference room, their faces showing a mix of excitement from yesterday's success and concern about the unauthorized access to the power systems. "We've changed all access codes," said Mike, the head of security. He was a former military man with a serious face and eyes that missed nothing. "And I've doubled the guards on critical systems." "That's not enough," Anna said. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept after discovering the security breach. "Whoever did this has high-level knowledge of our systems." Jack nodded. "We need to consider that we have a serious saboteur on board. Maybe more than one." Professor Reed, looking rumpled as always, spoke up. "The timing is not a coincidence. We make our first real progress, and suddenly someone tries to access the power core." Velix, who had insisted on attending as the Stellar Imperium's representative, made a dismissive gesture. "Perhaps one of your own scientists was simply running an unauthorized test. Humans are not known for following protocols." "The access codes used were diplomatic level," Mike replied flatly, "like the ones issued to observer teams." All eyes turned to Velix, whose blue-gray skin seemed to darken slightly. "Are you accusing the Stellar Imperium of sabotage?" he asked, his voice dangerously smooth. "We're not accusing anyone yet," Jack said quickly, "but we're increasing security around all critical systems." After the meeting, Jack pulled Anna aside. "We need proof before we make any accusations against Dorn or the Varl. The political consequences could be serious." "I know," Anna sighed. "But I also know they don't want us to succeed." Work continued on the Void Gate with new urgency. Anna's team had proven their approach worked, but scaling up from a small test portal to a full Void Gate presented enormous challenges. The materials needed to be perfect, the energy flows precisely controlled. 3 days after the security breach, they were ready to test the second major component, the spatial anchor that would keep the gate fixed in space. Without it, a functioning gate might drift, creating a moving hole in space-time that could tear apart anything in its path. "Power levels stable," called out one of the engineers as the test began. "Anchor field forming." Anna watched the readings carefully. Everything looked perfect. The anchor field expanded smoothly, creating an invisible bubble of stabilized space-time. Test successful, she announced, allowing herself a small smile. Professor Reed nodded in approval. Now we have 2 of the 3 main components working. Only the matter-energy converter remains. That was the most difficult piece, the system that would allow solid objects like ships to pass through the gates safely. The ancient builders had somehow solved the problem of converting matter to energy and back again without destroying it. No modern civilization had been able to replicate that feat, unknown to the rest of the team. Anna had been working on a radical solution. That night, she asked Reed to meet her in her private lab. "I need to show you something," she said, closing the door behind him. "But you can't tell anyone else yet." Reed raised his bushy eyebrows but nodded. Anna activated a small device on her workbench. A tiny field of shimmering energy appeared above it. "Put your hand in," she instructed. Reed hesitated. "What will happen?" "Just trust me." Slowly, Reed extended his hand into the field. His fingers disappeared, but he showed no sign of pain. "I can still feel my fingers," he said, surprised. "But I can't see them." Anna smiled. "Now pull your hand back." Reed did, and his fingers reappeared, completely unchanged. "Remarkable," he whispered. "You've solved the matter-energy problem." "Not completely," Anna admitted. "This is just a small-scale test, and it only works on living tissue so far." Reed looked at her sharply. "Living tissue? You mean?" "Yes. The gate responds differently to living things than to inanimate objects. It's like it recognizes life." Reed paced the small lab, thinking hard. This changes everything. If the gate itself is semi-living, and it recognizes other living things, then we need to approach the final component as a form of communication, not just technology. Anna finished for him. Their excitement was cut short by a station-wide alarm. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced, "Emergency in Section 12. All personnel evacuate immediately." Section 12 was the main power core. Anna and Reed raced through the corridors, joining the flow of crew members heading toward the emergency. When they reached Section 12, they found Jack already there, directing the response team. "What happened?" Anna asked, breathless from running. Jack's face was grim. "Explosion in the coolant system. 2 engineers were inside when it happened." Anna felt cold. "Are they dead?" Jack confirmed quietly. The blast was contained, but they had no chance. Engineers in protective suits were already inside the damaged section, assessing the damage. One came out and reported to Jack. "It wasn't an accident," he said. "The coolant regulator was tampered with. Someone reprogrammed it to build up pressure until it exploded." Anna felt sick. Sabotage was one thing, but this was murder. 2 people were dead because someone wanted to stop their project. "Do we have security footage?" Jack asked. The engineer shook his head. "The cameras in that section went offline 10 minutes before the explosion. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing." Later that night, Jack, Anna, and Mike, the security chief, reviewed what little evidence they had. The programming changes to the coolant system required high-level engineering knowledge, Mike said, and diplomatic access codes were used again. "Felix?" Anna asked. "No, he was in the observation lounge when it happened. Multiple witnesses confirm it." Jack frowned. "Then who?" Mike pulled up a security image on his tablet. "This is from a corridor camera outside Section 12, taken 30 minutes before the explosion." The image showed Ambassador Dorn himself, moving quickly down the corridor. "He claimed he was just taking a walk," Mike said. "But this is the only time he's ever been recorded in that section of the station." Jack's expression hardened. "We need to confront him." "Not yet," Anna said. Both men looked at her in surprise. "We don't have absolute proof. And if we accuse an ambassador directly, the Stellar Imperium could pull all their support from the galactic community. So we just let him get away with murder?" Jack asked angrily. "No," Anna said. "We finish the Void Gate. That's the best revenge. And while we do it, we set a trap. The next day, Anna called a station-wide meeting. Everyone attended, including Dorn and the other alien observers. The mood was somber after the deaths of the two engineers. Yesterday's tragedy has set our work back, Anna announced. The power core damage will take at least 2 weeks to repair. During that time, all void gate testing is suspended. She could see Dorn's slight smile of satisfaction. However, she continued, we will use this time to review our designs and improve security. The void gate project will continue. After the meeting, Anna met secretly with her core team. We're not really stopping, she told them. That was for Dorn's benefit. We're moving the critical equipment to the backup lab in Section 8, and we're accelerating the timeline. Accelerating? Reed asked, surprised. But without full power. We'll use the emergency generators, and I've figured out a way to connect the partially completed gate directly to the station's core systems. It's risky, but it might work. What about Dorn? Jack asked. Anna's eyes flashed with determination. He thinks he's won. Let him think that. Meanwhile, we'll be ready for his next move. As the team dispersed to begin the secret work, Anna stayed behind with Jack. This is dangerous, he said quietly. If Dorn discovers what we're doing, he'll try to stop us. Anna finished. I'm counting on it. This time, we'll be ready. Above them, the broken pieces of the ancient void gate continued their endless orbit around the dead star. Soon, Anna thought, those fragments would be joined by something new, a human-made void gate that would reconnect the galaxy. If they survived long enough to complete it. Time was running out. Anna knew it, Jack knew it, and every member of their team knew it. They had been working around the clock for 3 days in the hidden lab of Section 8, away from prying eyes. Life support is failing in Sections 3 through 7, reported Mike over the comm system. Emergency systems are holding, but not for long. Anna wiped sweat from her forehead. The station's temperature had been rising steadily as power systems failed one by one. What had started as sabotage to the main power core had spread like a virus through the station's systems. How much longer do we have? Jack asked, his voice tight with tension. 6 hours, maybe less, Mike replied. Oxygen recyclers are at 30% efficiency and dropping. Jack looked at Anna. We're not going to make it, are we? Anna stared at the half-completed void gate in the center of the lab. It looked nothing like the ancient design. Where the original had been all metal and crystal, theirs was a strange mix of technology and something almost organic. Parts of it pulsed with light like a heartbeat. We have to try, she said. It's not just about us anymore. Professor Reed, who had barely slept in days, nodded in agreement. The gate is responding better than expected. It wants to work. Jack might have smiled at the odd phrasing if the situation hadn't been so desperate. The idea of the gate wanting anything still seemed strange, but he'd seen enough in recent days to stop questioning it. What do you need? He asked Anna. Time, she said simply. And power, all you can give me. Jack nodded. You'll have it. As he left to coordinate with the remaining engineering teams, Anna turned to Reed. We need to connect the main components now, before the final power loss. Reed looked concerned. Without testing the matter-energy converter at full scale, it's risky. We don't have a choice. Together with the remaining team members, they began the final assembly process. The gate's 3 main components, the field stabilizer, spatial anchor, and matter-energy converter, had never been tested together. In theory, they should work in harmony. In practice, no one really knew what would happen. In the main control room, Jack was confronting Ambassador Dorn. Your sabotage has endangered everyone on this station, Jack said, barely controlling his anger, including your own people. Dorn's face showed no emotion. I don't know what you're talking about, Commander. We have proof, Dorn. Security recordings, access logs, everything. Jack stepped closer. Was it worth killing 2 engineers? worth potentially killing everyone here. For a moment, Dorn's mask slipped, showing a flash of genuine emotion. Fear. You don't understand what's at stake, he said quietly. The Void Gate technology cannot be controlled by humans. Your species is too young, too unpredictable. So you decided to kill us all instead. I intended only to disable the project, Dorn said. The cascade failure in the power systems was unexpected. Jack laughed bitterly. You messed with technology you didn't fully understand. And now we're all paying the price. A station-wide alarm cut off their conversation. The lights flickered and emergency backups kicked in, casting the room in a dim red glow. Main power failure in progress, announced the station's computer. Life support critical. Evacuation recommended. Jack's communicator beeped. We're ready, came Anna's voice. But we need all remaining power redirected to Section 8. That would shut down life support completely, Jack replied. We'd have minutes, not hours. It's our only chance. Jack made his decision. Redirecting power now. He turned to Dorn. Your escape pod is prepped if you want to run. The rest of us are staying. To Jack's surprise, Dorn shook his head. I will see this through, Commander. One way or another. In the hidden lab, the equipment hummed with power as the station's remaining energy was diverted to their project. The temperature rose further as life support systems shut down. Gate structure complete. Anna announced, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Beginning activation sequence. The team worked with practiced precision, each person handling their assigned role. The air in the center of the gate structure began to shimmer as energy fields took shape. Power at 50%, called out an engineer. Field stabilizer holding. Professor Reed monitored his instruments carefully. Spatial anchor engage. We're fixed in position. Anna took a deep breath. Activating matter energy converter. This was the moment of truth. If this component failed, the gate would be useless. Just a window to another place, not a doorway. The gate structure pulsed brighter, its rhythm increasing. The shimmering air in its center darkened, then expanded into a perfect circle of absolute blackness. Is it working? Someone whispered. As if in answer, the blackness suddenly transformed. Stars appeared, arranged in an unfamiliar pattern. They were looking at a different part of the galaxy. Full activation achieved, Anna said, her voice barely above a whisper. The gate is open. For a moment, everyone stood in stunned silence. They had done it. Against all odds, against sabotage and skepticism, they had built a working void gate. Then the station shuddered violently. What was that? Jack's voice came over the comm system. Mike answered, his voice tight. Power surge from the gate. It's pulling energy directly from the station's core now. Shut it down, Jack ordered. We can't, Anna replied. It's self-sustaining. The gate had taken on a life of its own, drawing power from sources they hadn't planned for. The circle of darkness expanded, growing larger than their design called for. Everyone out. Anna shouted as equipment began to spark and fail around them. They evacuated the lab just as another, stronger shudder ran through the station. In the corridor, Anna looked at Reed in confusion. This wasn't supposed to happen, she said. The power requirements shouldn't be this high. Reed's eyes widened with sudden understanding. It's not just creating a portal. It's reaching out. Reaching to what? Before Reed could answer, a new alarm sounded. But this one was different. Not the harsh warning of a station emergency, but a softer tone indicating an external contact. Jack's voice came over the comm system, sounding shocked. Anna, Reed, get to the observation dome. Now. When they arrived, they found Jack Dorn and several others tearing out at space in amazement. A ship had appeared near the station, a design none of them recognized, sleek and strange. Where did it come from? Anna asked. Through the gate, Jack said, but not from our side. From the other side. More ships began to appear, dozens of them, emerging from what looked like a larger version of their gate that had somehow formed in space outside the station. "The isolated systems," Dorn whispered. "The civilizations cut off when the original void gate collapsed." A communication request chimed on the station's systems. Jack accepted it, and a face appeared on the main screen, alien, but with a look of intelligence and what might have been joy. "We've been waiting," the alien said in a translated voice. "For so long, we've been trying to rebuild the gate from our side. We felt your gate reaching out and added our power to yours." Anna stepped forward. "You're from one of the isolated systems." "Yes, one of 23 cut off when the ancient gate failed. We've been trapped for 70 years. The alien made a gesture of respect. "No species has ever been able to rebuild the gate. Until now." All eyes turned to the humans in the room. "How did you do it?" the alien asked. "Our best scientists tried for decades." Anna looked at Reed, then at Jack, and finally at Dorn, whose face showed genuine astonishment. "We didn't try to recreate the past," she said. "We built something new instead. Something that worked with the universe instead of forcing it to obey. Something human," Jack added quietly. Within hours, more ships arrived from the isolated systems, bringing much-needed supplies and equipment to repair the damaged station. Engineers from a dozen alien species marveled at the human-made void gate, studying its design with wonder and respect. 2 days later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session, connecting through the new gate network that was already expanding beyond the original design. "The human achievement must be recognized," announced the speaker. "Void gate technology is once again connecting our galaxy, but in a new form, one that may prove more stable than the original." Ambassador Dorn was recalled by his government, his sabotage attempt now public knowledge. Before leaving, he approached Anna one last time. "I was wrong," he said simply. "About humans, about what was possible." Anna nodded, accepting his words without comment. Later, in the newly repaired observation dome, Jack found Anna studying designs for an even larger project. "Don't tell me you're already planning the next impossible thing," he said with a smile. Anna looked up. "The gate technology has applications we've barely explored. Faster ships, new forms of energy, maybe even communication across time." Jack shook his head in amazement. "They'll say it can't be built." Anna's eyes sparkled with determination and the thrill of discovery. "Good thing we don't listen when people tell us what's impossible." Outside the dome, ships from across the galaxy traveled smoothly through the new void gate network, and at the center of it all was the human-made gate, pulsing with energy like a heartbeat, part machine, part living thing, and entirely new. Just like the humans who had created it,